Thank you. Mr. Fletcher.
Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Scott, Congressman Davis from my home state, and members of the subcommittee. It is an honor to testify before you on the USDA water and wastewater programs and the associated technical assistance that directly benefits small and rural communities. I'm Steve Fletcher, and I have the honor to serve as president of the National Rural Water Association. NRWA is a water utility organization with over 31,000 members. Please note, 94% of community water systems in the U.S. serve rural communities under 10,000 in population. I'm also the manager and operator of the Washington County Water Company. This water utility started with a Farmers Home Administration loan and grant in 1979 with only 700 customers. We have received additional financing from rural development to expand and upgrade our utility 12 times. Currently, we serve 4,600 customers in parts of 7 counties. We simply could not afford to debt service a commercial credit loan with the income of our customers. We currently sell treated water to several small towns that made the decision to discontinue operating their treatment plants because they couldn't afford to staff, maintain, and upgrade their utility. We also operate and conduct all required testing for most of these systems. We do this at our cost because they are our neighbors. I make these points to further highlight the fact that without affordable financing and the direct assistance provided by the rural development and entities like NRWA, many small and rural communities simply couldn't afford to provide basic, clean, safe, and affordable water and wastewater services for their residents. This story is not uncommon throughout rural America. People take it for granted that their water is always safe and uninterrupted. This infrastructure, or what I call the invisible infrastructure, is not just about digging holes and putting pipes in the ground. These investments have many direct and indirect benefits. They provide jobs, many times increase the tax base from new business or housing development. They are catalysts for economic and community growth. Mr. Chairman, as you draft the rural development title in the new Farm Bill, we would like to focus on 4 issues. First, the majority of rural communities in the nation have relied on rural development for affordable financing and technical assistance to provide essential water and wastewater services and to overcome a lack of population density. As previously mentioned, many rural areas lack the financial capability and technical expertise to debt service commercial credit. The grant portion makes assistance possible for lower income residents and communities. With a current backlog of $2.5 billion, the demand for these rural development water and wastewater loans and grants is evident. Second, the Rural Development Circuit Rider Program. Since 1980, circuit riders have provided on-site technical assistance to small communities in all states to ensure that facilities operate at the highest level possible for public health protection. We currently have 117 full-time circuit riders in the field in all 50 states, and 85 of these circuit riders have over 25 years of experience. This assistance actually saves money and protects the community and the government's investments by ensuring that efficient and sustainable practices are followed. I must also emphasize the direct on-the-ground 24/7 disaster assistance we provide. We are on the front line responding to disasters in all 50 states. Chairman Scott and Ranking Member Scott, a recent example of this is when Georgia Rural Water Association worked with over 50 systems in southwest Georgia immediately after the tornado struck South Georgia on Sunday, January 22nd, to help respond to the devastation. Third, the Wastewater Technical Assistance Program. This initiative provides on-the-ground technical assistance directly to communities for wastewater treatment facilities. Assistance includes design and upgrade recommendations, daily operation and maintenance advice, permit renewals, and helping these systems meet compliance requirements from state and federal programs. Fourth, as President Trump has emphasized, a robust bill is needed to address the aging infrastructure in our nation. NRWA supports the President to increase infrastructure investments and requests funding to be directed to our rural communities, including providing resources to the existing tried and true rural development programs. We at the National Rural Water Association also share the mission and vision of our rural development partner, a mission to serve, regardless of income or location, every rural community in need. Thank you, Chairman Scott and Ranking Member Scott, for allowing me to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Chair now recognizes one of our new members, Mr. Fazo from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to have the witnesses here today, and I appreciate all of their coming. And Congressman Greenwood, welcome to the committee. here today. I wanted to focus on rural water. Mr. Fletcher, the New York Rural Water Association, Patricia Scalera, and folks that have worked in rural water are people I've worked with for many years, my prior tenure in the New York State Legislature. And I noticed in your testimony you suggest raising the cap. I think you said raising the cap on water projects and wastewater programs to 20,000. Is this going to, if we did that, would that affect the backlog, and would it impermissibly increase the difficulty that very small communities have in getting access to these programs? Because rural water and the Circuit Rider program, from my experience, have been terrific.
Thank you for the question. Funding priorities should still be given to smaller, rural, and lower-income communities. Every state has provided a specific allotment for loan and grant program, or for the loan and grant program. If any state would have obligated their funds to small rural utilities and had a balance left, I think at that point, then we could look at helping higher populated communities, slightly higher populated communities that demonstrate a need for the financing, but also is still rural in character. Taylorville, where Congressman Davis hails from, and that's where our state rural water office is, their population is about 11,000, and with the current cap, they are not eligible for that funding. Mm-hmm. And I think that would help these slightly larger communities have access to the loan and grant program if funds are available.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'm also going to be giving some testimony to the Appropriations Committee later today. There's one of their subcommittees on the Circuit Rider program, and for instance, and how important that is to the rural areas in my district. I know sometimes when you're from New York State, people think Manhattan. Well, upstate New York is a very rural area in need of much economic assistance.
Thank you. Mr. Fletcher.
I wanted to
welcome from the great state of Illinois. I know I don't represent the Nashville area, but I appreciate what you've done. Actually, in my previous position, had a chance to work with your water company. And I hear right before I got here, you mentioned my hometown of Taylorville. So I can't not ask you, give us anything that you may not have been asked yet that you want to make sure that the committee understands that is important to rural water systems in Illinois. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Congressman. I think pressing rural needs in Illinois and also the other rural communities in all the states is the funding through the Rural Development Water and Wastewater Loan and Grant Program. Rural Development has been working for 70 years with this program. And I'm sure you're aware that the last two farm bills were able to fund hundreds of projects in less than 90 days. At that point, after the R projects were done, it erased the backlog for water and wastewater projects in the United States. And at this time, we have a $2.5 billion backlog just after a few years after the R programs. So I would give priority to aging and deteriorating systems that are determined to be beyond their useful life or ones with the greatest public health needs. Secondly, our Circuit Rider program that Congressman from New York mentioned a few minutes ago. That assistance to small rural communities is essential to make sure that the water is safe for everybody to drink and they comply with all the federal regulations. I appreciate everything that you all do for rural water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Before we adjourn, I would invite my ranking member, Mr. David Scott, from my home state, to make any closing remarks that he may have.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. And first of all, let me commend you for pulling together this very, very important and very informative cast of these 6 persons that testified before us this morning. Their testimony was very accurate, it was thorough, and very helpful to us. And I just want you all to go away from this meeting knowing that this subcommittee stands with you, shoulder to shoulder, to make sure we provide you with adequate funding that you need, and let the people of America know that they get a return benefit. I think, Mr. Chastain, you mentioned $300 million that has been brought back, and the roles that you play. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we look forward to taking care of your interests in the upcoming Farm Bill.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for taking time to come up here on behalf of the people that you represent, the same people that we represent. And I want to commit to you that this subcommittee, and I think on behalf of the big chairman, the full committee will be working hand in hand with you to make sure that you have the resources that you need in the next Farm Bill to help those that both of us represent in America. So again, thank you for coming to Washington and testifying on behalf of our constituents. Under the rules of the committee, the record of today's hearing will remain open for 10 calendar days to receive additional materials and supplementary written responses from the witnesses to any questions posed by a member. The hearing of the Subcommittee on Commodity Exchanges, Energy, and Credit is adjourned. Good job.